There we go.
Cool. And we're in. So, Mr. Byrne, how are you doing? Good to see you. Good to chat to you. Thanks for taking the time to meet with me and talk Taekwondo.
Absolutely, anytime.
Yeah. So, I mean, we were only sort of chatting offline before there that, things are different now in the Taekwondo world and the whole world. So, um, I suppose, how are you coping with it as a club and as an instructor and stuff like that? That's the first question, I suppose, everyone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's that question of, can you make a pivot? Can you, like, the biggest thing for us right now is, I think it's twofold. The first thing is, well, what can we do to reinforce our community? So we have a club. The club has been in existence for, quite a number of years. I've been the coach in the club in Shannon, 21 years now. There, nearly 22 years. And, we're looking at, well, if things go terribly over the next few months, maybe there's no club there at the end of that. So, facing into that, it's a challenge of, like, how do you come together as a community and make things continue? And then from the point of view of being a coach and you still have people to coach, even if their training situation is challenged, it's like, okay, well, how are we now going to support people in their training? So we're, like, the first week or so has been figuring out almost what we're going to try to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's, well, okay, let's roll that stuff out and try it. So we've, between myself and Richie with Taekwondo Coach Academy, we've put together a couple of YouTube videos. We've been putting up some Instagram posts, tips.
Yeah, I've seen them. They're really cool, and it's really,
But how to provide actual coaching value, to people remotely is going to be the trick. So we have some things we want to try, and that's really all it is. We're not sure that anyone has this figured,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Go ahead, sorry.
It's an interesting one. I've noticed the same, and it's like we've been very kind of quiet on social media recently over the past few months, but now it's sort of like we felt, okay, we need to be really active and really get involved in the clubs live and the people that are dependent on us, and also the wider community. So I mean, stuff like this podcast or this we ran a live class on Instagram today just to see what it was like, and I mean, it was literally, it's a strange feeling teaching to a camera when you're just running technical movements, because you can't give feedback, you can't, there's no stimulus. It's just you're kind of just training, and people are just watching you, and hopefully they're following along.
You know what? Finally, as I said, there's a quick slant into coaching, and it's like, well, coaching without the student isn't coaching. That's that's what we're stuck with. We're feeling weird because we're kind of just lecturing at that point in time, and without the feedback of, is this working? Is the student getting out of this what we want them to get out of it? And even just the banter, it's just not the same.
Yeah. The energy is different, all right, and the feedback response has changed. I think we'll come to the whole coaching stuff now in a minute, because it's definitely a set of skills we want to tap your brain for, because you're quite equipped there. But I mean, suppose just for people who might know, I mean, what's your story? What's your background? Where did you come from? How did you get into Taekwondo? Why are you still there? That sort of stuff.
Okay, well, I suppose my background, it goes back to spending too much time at home, being kind of 9 years of age, and not doing the best in the social interactions in school, ending up in fights. And when I say fights, I mean not so much ending up in fights and like contesting it. I mean being in fights and having my arse handed to me is what I actually mean.
Yeah, okay.
I was a very, very small kid as well. I mean, I'm not a big guy now, but I was a very small kid. And I moved up from West Clare into Shannon, and Shannon it still isn't a big town, but it was big compared to West Clare.
Right.
And thrown into the bottom end of a class, and it's like, well, sink or swim there. And I sank for a while. Yeah. So the Taekwondo instructor happened to be training with my dad, and I started watching some of the best of the best.
Right.
Lee films, a couple of the No Retreat, No Surrender, all those 80s power ballads, training montage thing,
Slow motion, reverse hooking kicks across the chin sort of stuff.
Anything like that. So it was, if you like that, there's a fella at work who teaches that, and that was Master Ford. So I was sent.
Cool.
I was sent to train with Master Ford in February 1989, and at the age of 9, and I haven't stopped training since. That's kind of been the solid journey. But I I suppose what really changed me was probably around 12, 13 years of age when, we were coming up and going for black belts. We were red belts at that stage. And, then that was the time we started helping out with the earlier classes or, just generally being useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh, okay, there's something more to this. And that was kind of when I took an interest in being an instructor and in that, or saw that as a potential future for myself. And, that kind of continued on until 1999 and 98, sorry. And Master Ford had left Shannon at that stage. He'd gone off to Cork, and like he'd since come back to Clare, but at the time he was in Cork. And an instructor by the name of Kevin Surran had taken over the club in Shannon. And he decided he was going to move with his work to Australia. He was emigrating. And he announced this at the summer grading. And he was Master Ford, who was the examiner, was going, well, who's going to take over? So I think I was the fourth choice.
Lovely.
As fate would have it, I was the fourth choice. And originally it was supposed to be me and another black belt that were going to kind of take it on together. He never turned up. So he failed. So I ended up taking, 4 students for a whirl for the first class in, the club had pretty much evaporated at that stage. So it was basically starting from scratch again at that stage. But that I was about a year in when I realized, God, I don't know a thing. Like I'm really lost here. Like I'm trying stuff. I'm doing what I remember being taught, and these people are not getting better. They should. So I decided I'd ditch my industrial chemistry degree, which I was studying for at the time, and moved into sport and exercise science. And that was kind of the start of taking it seriously, if that makes sense.
And was that pivot to sport and exercise science something you were thinking anyway, or was it purely because you're coaching Taekwondo and it's like, I need the skills to do this, which is what I really want to do? Or had there always been a sort of a want to go that way? Or
so it's interesting. I think when I started my degree, more than anything else, I realized this isn't the degree I should have been doing. I listened to the guidance counselors in school, and they had kind of, the question they asked is, well, what are you good at? And so the answer, of course, was, well, whatever, physics, chemistry, math.
Whatever I'm getting the best grades in at the time.
Yeah, those are the ones that are, but they didn't ask, well, what are you interested in? What do you do outside of school?
What do you like?
And they missed that one. And of course, I didn't really think of myself as being good at PE because I didn't play soccer or hurling or Gaelic football.
Yeah.
And that was what you did in PE. And so I wasn't good at PE. So that was the extent of it. It's good at a leap test, all right, I suppose.
Yeah, I can run, yeah.
So yeah, that didn't come up. So it was while in university in Limerick that option started to develop and emerged. And it was like, well, okay, this is the way I could actually learn more about what I'm doing. And I really enjoy this and I'd like to do more of this. So I jumped into it.
That's great. That's cool. I mean, so it seems like you were kind of baptized by fire there as a coach. And, how much of your own training did you, you were just gone first degree black belt around then, sort of second degree maybe? Or
second degree, yeah. I got my second degree. My first degree, I was 13, nearly 14. And my second degree, I was 17.
Right.
So yeah, I was second degree at the time.
Cool. And so what was the sort of, because now when I look at the ITA and I look at Taekwondo in Ireland in general, the standard of competition and stuff like that is really, really high, and we see such really good organization in the associations around the country, and especially in the ITA, which we see on a week in, week out basis with people like yourself doing this work that you do for us, and we're really grateful of it, and you don't get enough thanks, but there you go, there's one for you at least.
Plenty of heads involved in making
absolutely and it's a testament to you. So how much I kind of posed this question to Master O'Mahony earlier on, how much have you seen the change in the way it was to the way it is, and what do you think has been the reason for that?
Okay, so I think the best way I could imagine that is when I was 10, 12, 13, I couldn't imagine, for example, a national team. Taekwondo at that point in time was, number one, to most people, you did compete, but you didn't see it as a sport. You still had very much, I think, the 1980s movie mindset where it was like this mystical, magical thing that would make you invincible. You'd be, hit and battered and bruised, but somehow you would win at the end, and there'd be a moment. You know, and I think the thing is, there was also a certain amount of hero worship to it. Like, you know, we looked up to Grandmaster Heel's show at the time, or, you know, whoever it happened to be. But you distanced yourself from them as well. They weren't people who were just applying the correct training methods over time to achieve a result. They were mythical almost. They were just a level of competent and accomplished beyond. No, you can't aspire to that.
Yeah.
So we thought of 7th, 8th, 9th degrees. We thought of, you know, the names that we came across as, you know, just invincible, unreasonable. Now, maybe that's obviously I was coming at that from being a child. So
yeah.
There's no an overlap of that. But certainly what it meant is that as coming to adulthood, we was lacking a lot of perspective. We didn't, like, I was seeing an association as I was coming into it at 19, 20 years of age as an instructor. That was, you know, they were trying their best, but it was very much small. The ambitions were very modest. You know, it was really about just managing the people that were there. It was collaborating so that things like tournaments could happen. It was, you know, gradings, because nobody was a senior grade. So we were always relying on finding a 7th degree, 8th degree, 9th degree from abroad to come in to do the gradings.
Yeah.
So it was a different animal. And then, you know,
I mean, that was a problem up until, like, you know, only a few years ago, right? Like, I mean, before
the senior grades, definitely, yeah.
You know, I remember when you were going for 6, it was up in Dublin, you know, and there was nobody at 8 at that stage. It was before Master Wheatley or whatever, and so I still remember that, you know, and it's kind of a weird one for me, because it's like, you know, that's a cool experience to have, to be tested from outside, and at the same time it's kind of cool not to have to worry about that, because you know who's coming, right?
Effectively, every grading I've done has been tested from outside.
Yeah.
So my first degree was under Grandmaster Heel's show in '93. Then my second degree was under Grandmaster Howard, who was not outside of the country, but was outside of our association.
Right.
My third degree was under Master Hutton, so from Scotland. My fourth degree was in an IIC in Belgium under Grandmaster Tran, Grandmaster Boss, etc. Then fifth degree was again the IIC, but in Benidorm, and Grandmaster Lan, I think, had come onto the committee, Grandmaster Moran, Boss. And then so on, sixth degree, which was Grandmaster Lan, Grandmaster O'Toole, and then so that was the first one where there was an Irish component to it.
Yeah.
You know, but it was supervised, and so, you know, in terms of testing again, we'll go back abroad. So that's going to be my story, but that's kind of the last generation where that's the case.
I was going to say, do you think having a test experience like that's so varied and has such a wide range of examiners, do you think that benefits you as a Taekwondo practitioner, as opposed to when you, like, I've tested consistently under the same kind of instructor, and now at black belt the same panel of instructors, or at least the same syllabus. I know what's kind of coming. I know how to explain it, and I know where I can lean on and where I don't need to, you know. And I wonder, does that difference make you a better, or not a better, but give you a different set of skills you wouldn't get? Do you know what I mean?
There's a resilience needed, you know, to cope with that. It's not that the gradings were necessarily harder in any case or any specific case, but you didn't know what you were going into.
Yeah, that's the thing, right?
So the preparing is, well, just do your Taekwondo as many things as you can think of as well as you can, and hope it's the right stuff. And inevitably it never was, and there was always something that, you know, you weren't 100% ready for, that caught you by surprise. But that was you know, part of it. And then there was always the random thing where you were always waiting for the result, wondering, was it like, I didn't break all of my breaks. Does that mean?
Or goose? Yeah.
Or like, I didn't get that self-defense technique to work really well, or it didn't go as I planned. Is that a problem? Or, you know, and so it was really hard to know. But now I think, you know, okay, things are a little bit more educational standard. There's a rubric. Everyone knows what they need to do in order to, and there's good and bad to that, you know. And like, you don't want people to be on the floor afraid, but you do want them to be nervous.
Okay.
It's striking a fine balance there, and I think we still have to get that right. I think we've been through phases where it was more right than not, and we, you know, there are other times when you look at it and you'll say, oh, okay, we could do it a little bit more nerves on the floor here. We could do with people being a little bit more tested by certain sections.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, that's definitely something that I think the variation that we've had over the years has contributed to maybe a wider understanding of more areas where if you know, much like if you're going into a leaving cert subject and you know a particular area but that you're not comfortable with, it's not the best for the overall martial artist, you know.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I've been toying with it in my head myself, you know, especially since the ITA syllabus got changed, or not changed, the manual 3 came out, and the 2 options now, option 1, option 2, right? And so, like,
by popular request,
by popular request or by whatever. But I mean, I've kind of taken a weird look on that, in that, you know, for me, if you want to test now going forward in our club, you'll definitely get everything in option 2, which is your pattern techniques essentially, and you'll get option 1 as well. And if you want to pass, you at least need option 2. And if you want to kind of look up the level and go sort of A grade and above, you know, then you're going to need both. And you know, I think it'll give you a nice kind of barometer. It'll make the test a million times longer, but I think it'll give you a good.
Depends, yeah. I mean, like, it was requested, and so it's in there. But myself and Mr. Ryan and the others who use that, like the option 1, we're not rolling back. Like it's, you know, there will be people who will say, "Oh no, it's always been done the other way." It was like, well, maybe by you, but you know, for us, we used to do it in some ways. And anyone who's listening to it, the simple thing was, we teach all of the fundamental movements of a pattern, the grade ahead of it. So we teach fundamental movements from Dosan while people are yellow belts and studying Dangon. And so what it means for us is when you get to green tag, no problem. You already know all of the fundamental movements. You've practiced them. All you need to do is learn the sequence. You do a little bit of chaining, and all of a sudden they have the pattern within a session.
And then it becomes more about performance and actually improving this, as opposed to learning your And I understand. I mean, the logic behind it I really like as well.
But it's a direct quote from General Choi. He was like, you know, practice the movements individually until they're perfected, and before you ever try to include them in a pattern. So it's like, and I can't claim credit for having noticed that was in the encyclopedia. That was Master Yadier who kind of you know, poked that particular balloon and burst it. And
+1.
Right, okay, that's a good call. We'll give that a try. So we stole that idea from the Polish Taekwondo Association at the time, and you know, we've run with it for 10 years now. And like, I'm happy, and I'll keep doing it. But if others want to do it a little bit differently, you know, no problem. We will facilitate.
Yeah, and that's kind of the cool thing about the association. It's not a dictatorship, right? You can do it, you know.
No.
I'm curious. So, thinking about how Shannon evolved and where you got into. I mean, you're a competitively leaned coach. I think, you know. You have a competitive team. You're involved in the national team quite fairly heavily. You know, you've had world champions come out of your stable, which is a credit to the coaching standards that you're putting out there. Were you a competitive guy when you came up through Taekwondo? Were you always in the?
Yeah.
What was the tournament circuit like when you were coming through the grades?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So from the point of view, was I competitive up to about 13, 14, 15 years of age when Master Ford moved off to Cork? Yeah, I was in competitions regularly. When Mr. Surin took over the club, then we were probably at 2 competitions between the age of 15 and 18.
Right.
It went blank. And this is before, I like to tell people, it was before the internet, and it was also before having a landline in my house.
Yeah.
So even had I, you know, a phone number for somebody to check up with or whatever, you know, it was, the news was not going to get to me if the instructor didn't pass it on. Big deal for me. Like that really annoyed me. So it didn't annoy me at the time because I didn't know any different. It was in meeting Mr. Ryan then again later, like we would meet from time to time, and it was when he started saying, "How come you're not going to tournaments anymore?" I was like, what?
Tournaments?
Tell me about these tournaments. So yeah, it turned out there'd been 7 and 8 tournaments a year, and they'd been going to all of them, and we'd been going to none of them, and that really annoyed me. So when I took over the club, I started training again towards competition. I started working with Master Cooley, and traveling up to River Valley every weekend to train, to learn to kind of, if you can imagine how bad it would be now to take a 6-year hiatus from sparring and come back and then try and jump into the
to that level. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What's going on here? I'm lost. Now, if you were never there in the first place, and then you take that hiatus and you try to come back into it. So I was so far out of depth in terms of what I was trying to get people to do. It just didn't make any sense. It didn't relate to what the game was. So I spent a couple of years traveling up there every weekend, pretty much relearning the trade as far as sparring goes. And that was Master Cooley, Darren Smith, Ross Smith, Luke Woods, all those guys. We were all training together up there and getting back, training with Stephen Lang and so on. So that was kind of my actual restart in competition. Was a 19-year-old adult. So I actually jumped back into competition at that stage, having not really been able to compete from 15 through. So I suppose maybe even 14 through. So when that started, it was jump into the deep end. My first competitive match was against Ivan Clement in the Netherlands. He'd just won Junior World Championships. Obviously, I had no idea who he was. So he just about KO'd me with a reverse turning kick in that first match. That was brilliant. But survived that.
Soften your cough, as they say.
That's it. So that was kind of the start of it. And everything after that is, well, that doesn't work. Right, we'll go back and we'll have a look at that. Well, that doesn't work. But really, for me, it kind of went hand in hand. So I was developing competitors. We were going to the competitions. We were going to everything we could go to. We were traveling abroad. We were going to every competition we could get our hands on. And I was being challenged by my competitors. So they were going to competitions, facing challenges, winning and losing. And then that was challenging me as an instructor and a coach to find a way for them to win, which always meant going back to, right, what's wrong? Is it our strategy? Is it the tactics? Is it our training? Is it, and you just have to continually evolve until you're actually able to do something. And I remember, we went and we didn't have a black belt take a medal at an Italian Open. I went 7 times, and it was the 4th one before a black belt took a medal. Now as I said, we had a thing at the time. We don't count gimme bronzes. Okay, so
right.
Section you took a bronze, that one didn't count. You had to win something. So it took us for the 4th championship we went to. Viking Cup was much the same, and it took us a while to get up to speed, but it's a good learning curve.
It's interesting you say that, because I mean it's a pattern I'm seeing over and over and over again. It's like, I went to tournament, I got hammered. I went to tournament, I got hammered. I went to tournament, I got hammered. I went to tournament, I got a medal. Yeah. And it's kind of like, there's something in this perseverance, Lark. It's funny how it works out that way, and it's just, I see it everywhere, across all grades, across all categories. I see the same thing happening over and over and over again. The people that are continuously just chopping away are rewarded, and it's like, what's the secret? It's like, just keep going,
Absolutely. People I've regularly been asked to comment on, up to the point of gone to European White Paper Summit on talent identification, to discuss it on behalf of Sport Ireland. And fundamentally, I don't believe in it, at least as far as Taekwondo goes. I don't believe you can look at a kid at age 8, 9, 10, 11 and say, there we go, let's focus on this one. This one is talent. Because I certainly wouldn't have picked any of the people who've won European and World Championship medals from my club at that age. At 8, 9, 10, maybe even 13.
Yeah.
The one common denominator, and particularly I would say in relation to the seniors, because it's the senior World Championships is a whole other ballgame. The ones who don't get to senior don't win senior world titles, first and foremost, which is, for me, there's absolutely no point in massively, it is a long-term career planning thing that you do. So you want to develop the person fully. You want to spend your time, developing all of their skills, a rounded athlete as best you can. And most of all, you want to keep them always working towards something, striving for something, interested, engaged, challenged the whole way through. If you can manage to do that for 10 years and get a person to adulthood, you have a chance of winning a world title.
And this is it, right? It's a 10-year journey. Like, that's a long time for anyone to put into anything, especially when you're 9,
We don't do the tots, the ninjas, warriors, tigers, the rest of we don't do 3, 4, 5, 6. So our youngest is 6. So for them, that's a 12-year journey,
I know. I mean, and it's so interesting, because I'm really kind of in your camp on this one, that, I've been reading a lot about, early specialization versus generalists, and the evidence is kind of going, like, if you specialize early, fine, you could be a Tiger Woods, but the odds are you're going to go early and peak out, and that'll be the end of you. Whereas the guys that played 5 or 6 sports early and they continue to do, and then chose to specialize at 14, 15, 16, 17, are the ones that end up going on to kind of elite levels, and it's something that people say to me, goes, he's got football on Tuesday. Like, cool, go play football. We'll see you on Thursday. you're 7. That's cool. We'll see you there. And if you want to do taekwondo, you will, I mean, that's my philosophy on it anyway. I don't know.
We have people who bear out the example. Even I can't be held as a pinnacle of success as an athlete and a competitor, but my interest and involvement was definitely sustained because I also played basketball. I ran, I did athletics, I was a swimmer. I had other interests, so that when taekwondo was getting me down and things weren't going my way, I didn't have to, that, it wasn't that I was so invested in that one thing and that crushed me personally. It was like, well, okay, but I'm doing okay here. My 800-meter time came down.
Okay.
So
right.
it gives you a little bit of a refuge. You don't start to attach your identity to your,
I'm the best at one thing, and if it's not that, that's interesting.
Exactly. And it's easy to do, particularly as you're developing and you don't know who you are and where you are as a teenager, that kind of thing. If your identity gets too wrapped up in your achievement in a particular aspect, and that then starts to suffer, it's like it's a tough time. So I think for me, going through as a teenager, it was like, well, the taekwondo was, I wasn't getting any major success there. I graded to black belt. I was tipping away, but there was no competitions. So at that time, it was basketball, it was athletics, it was other things. But again, they took their backseat in turn, as taekwondo started to become good. But that's, I think that's important for people, like that longer journey view to what we're doing.
Yeah, big time. You've got my vote in that effort, definitely. I think there's way too much emphasis on 8-year-olds being international athletes, and it's like, you're just gonna wreck that kid.
We really don't need it. Plenty of evidence to show like people like that you're never at such a disadvantage in taekwondo. The common pattern is a person gets their black belt at 13 and a half, 14. A year or two later, maybe they make national team, and they get 2 or 3 seasons as a junior, and they build a lot of experience, which may stand them going to senior level. Okay, that's one route, but we've got plenty of other examples too. They just, they're not the most common route, and I think that's just the most common route simply because we start people very young. We have an age for black belts, and so it's not a causation thing. That isn't the best route to become an international competitor. It's just the most common because that's when people get their black belts.
Yeah. And do you think you need a good junior pedigree to be a good senior?
No. I mean, and again, you come down to your practicing multiple sports and the rest of it as well. An awful lot of it depends on how you cope with the experience of competition. So
yeah, I mean that's the whole thing.
Yeah, and I mean we do see it, regularly. But I mean, I would love to kind of point out some of the people who had no junior pedigree and have done phenomenally well as seniors. Even you go back to the likes of Darren Doherty, who kind of came back out of retirement in his mid-30s to go ahead and win European Championship medal. And he'd been retired for years. Was he good before he retired? Yes. Was he good after he came back? Yes. But it
helps. But yeah, it's still.
Equally, like Shane O'Rourke, who he came through all the way with us, and Shannon then spent some time in the Valley, and now he's with Johan de Silva in London. But we would say the story I always tell is like his first individual gold medal as a junior was a week or 2 weeks before his 18th birthday in an Italian Open. But he hadn't won an Irish tournament.
Right.
So got the whole way to and for those again who wouldn't know, I mean, he's wandering around the place with quite a few world and European medals, individual and team. Like he's picked up a fair few over his career.
Yeah.
But he was training from 10 and 11 years of age. Like he had a junior, 3 or 4 years as a junior black belt. He was traveling, he was competing, he just wasn't winning. So you'd say, look, is the experience of being in competitions and having that repeated experience that matters more so than the having a good junior record,
Yeah. And I mean, like this kind of segues to another like whole coaching thing of, the transition from method to application, and how you go from what you're doing in the venue to actually what you're doing on the mats. And I mean, like I'd love to segue onto that sort of stuff as to get your thoughts on leading coach, on skill acquisition. I suppose is a little bit of a topic I've been doing an awful lot of research on recently, since I spoke with Richie Ford last year, and he really turned me on to this whole constraints led approach and all of this. And it's a fascinating thing that the more I deal with it and the more I sort of think about acquiring skills, it's kind of nearly counterintuitive to the way we used to a Taekwondo class, where we all line up and we stand there in the lines and we do our techniques, and then suddenly it'll work in practice.
The problem, and like myself and Richie, of course, we chat about this all the time, but the first challenge that you have is, as a Taekwondo coach, you can't use one way of coaching, because you're coaching entirely separate, discrete types of skills. So, your pattern is very much a closed skill. Like the environment shouldn't change. The footing might be a little different, but realistically, the environment doesn't substantially change. Doing the same performance no matter where in the world you are. So you can teach that, and repetition is massively more important there. You want to challenge it, certainly, and there's the mental component to it, but for the most part, it really is about building up the repetitions, so that the movement is as accurate to the ideal movement pattern as it can be.
Yeah, this sort of automatic response.
But then we have sparring, which is a completely open and exposed game, or opposed, I should say, game, where everything is about the relationship between you and your opponent and the space and the game state. And then the same methods don't work to teach that. So we can break it down and simplify it and get people to look like they're doing well by making it a simple drill or exercise, but it just doesn't translate back into the game.
And it's something I see so much of. I mean, pad, go to the match, loss.
Yeah.
But I'm beating the hell out of the pads, and it's like, yeah, but you don't fight pads.
Yeah. And that was always the argument years ago against breaking, but breaking is a whole different concept now.
Yeah, there's breaking is its own entity, and we can dig into that if you want as well. But I'm curious. I mean, like, one of the things that I'm really interested in is the split on how you coach across age and grade a little bit, right? I mean, you need a certain amount of repetition and a certain amount of building functional patterns for this chaotic world that you're going to throw people into, that is sparring. And I mean, it's not, I don't know, I don't think it's enough to kind of go to a bunch of 6, 7, 8-year-old white yellow belts and go, okay, make a ring, and one person has side kick and the other person has counter punch, and make it happen, if they haven't got that pattern where they know how to throw a technically correct side kick. And I mean, at what point for you do you find, first of all, do you agree with this? And secondly, do you find, if you do, that there's a cutover point where you're doing more kind of decision-based training as opposed to technical skill training? And where's that scale go for you in Shannon as a club, I suppose?
So bizarrely, what you end up with, at least for us, is you end up with a kind of a counterintuitive solution, which for us is you tend to learn psychic as a gymnastic movement, almost as in for like a traditional movement for pattern. So you're learning it stationary from a parallel stance. You're learning with a hand on a wall to stabilize and give you balance. We're learning pushing off a wall. We're learning, but it's all from the point of view of we're trying to replicate a movement pattern for the purposes of, we say, hitting the top of the hoop, for keeping it over a woggle, for kicking over a chair, for reaching a target, for whatever. But you're setting the mechanical constraints of the movement to develop the shape with lots of hidden repetition. So does it matter if it's over a woggle, through a hula hoop, while bouncing on one leg, while holding a wall, holding a bar, pushing off, jumping over, whatever. You're hiding the repetitions basically so you don't get bored. So we're doing that an awful lot at the early stage to develop a pattern of the psychic. And then all that changes when you get into your game is now you're going to be doing it from a moving or in a moving environment, and you're trying to make that match. The in-between step there, because it's going to be a challenge, and because you want to improve the type of a psychic that's thrown in sparring. Yeah, okay, that's where your pads play a role. That's where having a moving target, having something that's more rhythmic, because again, rhythm is a teacher too. So, you know, we can, what we're doing is increasing the amount of representativeness and the amount of variation in the drill as we go. So at its base level, we're standing at a wall, we're stabilizing against the wall, we're lifting a leg through a particular pattern, we're extending the foot. And that happens and it's repeated and it's the same every time, because we want to give them a pattern that they can latch onto so they know it's correct. And with that, it's almost like you're doing operant conditioning, Pavlov style. Okay, so that's where you want to kind of give them the little nod or the click or the tap on the shoulder when they get it right, and you reinforce, or there's something happy, or, you know, how would you say, something rewarding and comfortable and enjoyable that comes from you have a correct performance, and you want to discourage the poor performances. Now, that doesn't mean you go and you give out to them, but it can mean that your foot falls through the hoop, or you're, you know, it's just you meet a condition and it's not what you're going for, and you change roles or whatever it happens to be. But we'll build that until, yeah, the psychic kind of works, and then we can add in rhythm, and we can add in, because rhythm then challenges it a little bit. We can add in change of distance, that challenges it a little bit. We can have, you know, a choice reaction, challenges it a little bit. But you'll move over and back between those, and all you're trying to do is each class is evaluate, right, where is it right now, how do we bring it on a bit further. And yes, the ultimate goal is that happens with a decision, that they, you know, that they can see what's happening in the ring. There's a perception of the environment. They know the game state. They know where they are in the ring. They know what the opponent is doing and how they're moving. They have a plan when they throw that side kick for, am I looking to create movement? Am I looking to double this up? Am I looking to land out of this and throw another shot? What do I expect my opponent to do? And all of that should be almost intuitive, because they practiced it so many times and made the decision so many times. Our job then as coaches is, how do we help the game be the teacher by setting up the game the right way? Really, for us, myself, for Richie, for those of us who are talking in this space an awful lot, the big thing comes down to one of two things. Are you learning the skill in a kind of in a way where the situation draws forth the correct choice? Or is a cognitive understanding of it needed? So that's the constraints-led approach versus the games for understanding or game sense approach. Yeah. And really all we're talking about is, do we believe there has to be a cognitive understanding of what they're doing? Do they have to understand what they're trying to achieve? And I think that's where you'll get some small variations in it. That's where questioning would come in more in the game sense, whereas the self-discovery or guided discovery of the constraints-led would be a bit different.
It's a fascinating sphere.
Yeah.
The whole skill acquisition, because you can take it out of sport and you can apply it to any skill. You know, I'm writing software in my spare time and I'm going, do you know how I could figure this out? You know, and suddenly you see the coach brain applied, and you know, colleagues look at you like you've got two heads, and then suddenly stuff works and it's amazing. How did you know? It's like, you know, tricks. But it's a really interesting one. I mean, just to sort of talk a little bit about the national team and the ITA and how this has evolved and where you see it going. I mean, national team, like you said earlier, there was no national team. It didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
We've had huge success in Ireland in Taekwondo. No, you know, through the work that you guys have all put in over the years. And I'm just like, I'm curious to know where this came from, and why you think it came about, and where do you think it's going, and because we're kind of in a transitionary stage with a lot of people kind of have moved off and they're in other spheres now or whatever, but what's the future got for international Taekwondo in Ireland?
Yeah, I mean, we face some challenges now. I would think that the biggest challenge that we actually have is we're a victim of our own success in sparring, where the reality, I think, is around the country at the moment that the majority of time and effort spent on it's a perfect storm kind of thing. So we've been very successful in sparring, which results in people looking to sparring as where we're going to be successful in the future. And that's not just national team coaches, that's coaches in general, athletes who come through the team, people who go to competition. If you paused in 2009, you'd have said, well, a team pattern, female power breaking and special technique, that's our go-to, because that's what we were doing well in, you know, at that point in time, early 2009 and before. But simultaneously, the ITF rules have changed so that now you have 10-person teams who can afford to specialize more. You have 2 people per category at senior, again, and 3 at junior. So you're more likely, if you do specialize, to still be able to be selected, whereas previously people had to be multidisciplinary to be able to give themselves a fair shot at being selected somewhere along the line. And the result of that is twofold. First of all, the standard in the individual disciplines is higher because you're not dealing with multi-eventers who are doing, in this moment, pattern. You're dealing with a pattern specialist who's doing pattern.
Yeah, okay.
And potentially you're dealing with 127 of them, in a first degree section. So coming through that now requires people to individualize, put in an awful lot more time and effort to be able to get through the rounds. Where sparring has at least the benefit of two things that kind of help us in Ireland. The first thing is there's more medals available, just off the fact that, we say, particularly in junior. In junior, you've got 3 potential grades, and we basically don't have third degrees. So you're 6 people for male and 6 people for female who'll do individual pattern. And you have, at the same time, 12 weight classes, essentially 3 people per weight class, between male and female. So 30 versus 12. So you've got 3 times as many people can be involved in the team at a junior level at any point in time through sparring. So that compounds everything. So right now we're looking at, well, how do we focus our efforts to make sure that we really focus on the individuals who've chosen to specialize, who are working on those disciplines, and giving them the extra coaching time and practice to maybe see some reward, so that other people can see, look, that's actually how it's to be done. You're going to have to put some time into it, focus on a discipline, and see some reward. So right now we have 1 specialist in special technique, and we hopefully have more coming soon. We have 4 or 5 specialists in patterns, and hopefully we'll develop that into the future. But for right now, unfortunately, the European Championships in Slovakia is cancelled.
Yeah.
Team, what can we do? But we wouldn't have had any pattern teams. We were 1 short at male, 1 short at female. We were just short, and that will need to be picked up again. But I do see that as coming back up. Other than that, though, looking at the very disheartening part about it being cancelled, we're looking at our sparring competitors this year and going, wow, we really have a superb group here. We're looking at an exciting transition, a new senior team.
Yeah.
We have some guys who are coming up as junior world champions from Germany, moving into, and junior medalists from Germany that are moving through to a senior team. We have very exciting junior male and female teams. The senior female team is still very strong.
Yeah.
They have a strong core to it, and they'll be looking to add girls to that team, coming up from junior over the next little while. It's looking very strong still, but it is still transitional, as you said, because it was always going to be a case. We knew it going into 2017. And even in terms of me stepping down as head coach after 2017, we knew it would require a new energy and a clean slate, basically, to rebuild from there, because we knew we were facing retirements. We knew we were going to have people who would say, right, that's me. I've done my thing.
I've done that, yeah.
And we knew that was going to be the case. And so, the best decisions, I think, were made. And, we have a slightly different coaching panel now. We have a very new team, and we'll build up again. It could be next year, it could be the year after, before we'll feel like, right, this is the best that we can put on the floor. But it's definitely looking very positive. There's a great energy, a great enthusiasm. There's I have to say, from a coaching point of view, so satisfying the last few coaching sessions before we had to cancel them. The huge positive effort and energy, and people making really good, supportive, positive choices in terms of how they were participating in the sessions. It's just really encouraging. So yeah, we're looking forward to getting back to that, hopefully the world.
Yeah, and as we all wait to watch and see how you do, because it's always a great binder for the country to see that, and the teams around the country to see. I love watching the updates come through, and whenever we know the national team are away, it's so. I wish he's continued success on it,
But as I said, challenges. But I know, speaking to national team coaches from other parts of Europe, in particular, it's a challenge for a lot of countries, actually. other than we'll say for the countries who are selecting in the way that we are, where it's, multiple selection events and that kind of thing, they're finding it difficult, particularly to find those disciplines, the patterns, power, special technique. And, it's an unusual one because, as I said, I've got some great jumpers and that coming through the club, but they also have to be tall, so at least,
to the game. Yeah.
At average or above height. And that's difficult. But we've kind of started now from even a young age, we are focusing a little bit more on breaking and, going back to having that well-rounded, multidiscipline approach.
For sure.
Discipline, pattern, sparring, power, and special. That's kind of what I mean. But
yeah, and we're doing the same even with our youngest classes. They have a special technique class, and it is glorified jumping over pads with a little target to touch it. Maybe technique, I don't really mind, but this is part of what you do. And now suddenly when they're blue belts, okay, it's a spec tech in the tournament. Yeah, of course I'll do it. Why wouldn't I? As opposed to how do I do this? What do I do? I just jump and kick it. Okay, let's do that. Red flag. Did I win? So it's part of the culture, and again, even like you said with the breaking as well, that's something we're trying to figure a way to do kind of cleanly and safely, and but we'll worry about that in the future, I suppose. I mean, it's an interesting one. I see clubs and countries around Europe that consistently turn out good teams. Do you know what I mean? And do you think there's that moment you hit where it's like, okay, we have this kind of flywheel effect now where we're just rolling teams out and we always have every category filled with competitors? Like, I mean, the likes of Norway and Poland are constantly turning out,
Poland and to a fair degree Russia have done that consistently for a very long time. There's a critical mass that you need to get to before that's a thing. To be honest, I think the biggest challenge that we have in Ireland on that front, particularly when it comes to senior, is people going to university and not training. So I would say, we're particularly vulnerable to it where we are, in Shannon or Stephen and Quinn. There's no university in Clare, so maybe someone will go to Limerick and still come back and train, but with public transport, that's really difficult to do. What we tend to find is that the majority of our students, like at least 4/5 of them that go to senior, they go to college in Galway or Athlone or somewhere and they're gone.
You're right.
So really the clubs that are based in around Cork and Dublin where the students tend to stay at home and commute to college, they have a better chance of staying there through the seniors. But I think that's a huge challenge for us. It's like, how do you retain people, at least for the first 4 years of being senior, And then if you start losing people because of careers and marriage, and all of those things, and wonderful, those are really good reasons to not be competing. But but like being in school is not a great reason. It's a perfect time to compete. So
I know, right?
We'd love to have people for at least those next 3 or 4 years after finishing secondary school, and we don't see that enough. And predominantly it is the ones from Dublin and Cork who make it for those next 4 years. But we'd love to see a little bit more of that. And I don't know if there's something we can do to support that.
It's a difficult problem. It's a wicked problem.
I mean, it's not often we see them from Waterford or from Clare, or like we've had our few, but it is difficult.
I wonder, does that sort of segue onto how we're doing coaching and coach training in the country, around the country? I mean, we've done great work with the intros and level 1s, and now level 2 coming on spec, I believe, as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think it's a fantastic sort of feather in the cap of the association there, that there's this facility there to upskill your people from, like kind of blue belt 16. It's like, here you go. Like, I mean, I have people coming through the club that are gonna go to black belt. They'll be 17, 18. They'll be going to college. They'll have their qualified. They'll have their level 1. And they'll go teach Taekwondo for hopefully for me, and they can make some money while they're in college.
Well, I mean, from that point of view, I've had 7 students now complete their coaching qualifications through level 1, coach at the club, and effectively have their college tuition paid the whole way through. So it's nice, it's a nice thing to be able to do, but from the perspective of starting a coach education program from scratch, I mean, you can't do it without the support of the government agencies that are involved. But it's like, I genuinely believe it's made a massive difference to the people that are coming through the from the clubs, because I go back to, I did it the old-fashioned way, which is you do what your instructor did, and other than that, you try and find a mentor, which I did. So I mean, I followed what Master Ford would have done in his time, and obviously he's moved on since then. But so at best, I was imitating his former self.
Yeah.
So I was kind of teaching what he did in the early 90s, but I was doing it in the early 2000s. Right. So, I was 10 years behind even what he might have been doing, but that's what I had been doing, or that's what I started with. And then I sought and found a mentor. So I had Master Cooley for, however many years that I was following. But even at that, he was also, seeking mentors in Master Hutton, Kia Rumbut, we had Master Willie van der Mortel, we had Master Yedut, we had, we went and
sought that out. Yeah.
We saw people. And it's not that what we're doing in the coach education is going to replace all of that kind of thing. We still want and need mentors, and we still need a community of coaches to work on, but we're trying to build that. That's the whole element of it. So we're just trying to, can we shortcut the first bumbling steps and the insecurity, the not knowing, and the not knowing who to call, and the not having a place to start from, to grow from, and basically provide people with, at the very least, the ABCs and the how to read, and the, how to apply yourself, what to study, and give them a few steps. And then, okay, now get someone to help you. Now have someone you can pick up the phone to now
you have topics to go research. Now you can kind of, and
it also gives us a common language, so we can sit down over the phone, we can talk about representative design, we can talk about and that's great. And I have great conversations with people throughout the year on things like that, and okay, well, this isn't working, what could I try? Or I've tried this and this and this, what's left? And sometimes the answer is, well, you said you tried this, this and this, I'd never thought of trying number 2 there. I'm going to give that a go, but you can try this in the meantime. And the more we share, the more we know. So I think that's the wonderful part about it. So I mean, for myself now, I think I have delivered on 15 introduction to coaching courses, or 17. I have to check, but quite a few.
Yeah.
The course is 12 years old now, and we're actually, you were saying, we're writing the level 2. We're actually currently, all of the coach developers are rewriting the intro. So that's the next one that runs will be a pilot of the new program. And even that is when we started, most of the people who were going to do an intro course were instructors. They had been teaching for, in some cases, 20 years.
I suppose we needed a lot of people to get it as well, right?
Yeah. Well, it was just putting us all on the same page to start with. It was kind of saying, well, look, can we all figure out, because it's very hard if the instructors didn't ever go through the system. They don't know what their students are going through, that they're sending them on this course. And so the language is going to be challenging, confusing, things that they do. They won't be prepared to explain why they do it differently, and so on. So we had that advantage, I suppose. But seeing as everyone has gone through it, now when the students are going through and they're going back to the instructor goes, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. That's what this is about, and this is why we do it differently here, or this is what we do instead, or this is what we added to that.
This is what I found from,
Now we're mostly getting, 16 to 55, 60, but blue belts to black belts who have 3 or 4 years of Taekwondo experience, or 5 years of Taekwondo experience, and maybe no coaching experience. So that's our new normal. So what it means is, for us, in terms of the outputs from the course, it means that we're spoon feeding a little more. We really are introducing them to coaching. We're giving them worked examples more and helping them to work through them, rather than challenging. And so there will be there'll still be group tasks and discussions and innovation, but you'll be working from the basis of, if nothing else, then do ABC.
Yeah.
Whereas I think a lot of the coaches who would have gone through it initially, we assumed an awful lot of knowledge, or assumed at least a working knowledge of how to line up a class, starts and things, and get something going. You might not have all the technical details, but you've got something. Where now we're kind of saying, we assume you know nothing. So step 1 is, here we go.
Cool. I mean, it really is.
Most clubs that we look at now, a lot of the clubs are well established. They have multiple black belts in the club. Once upon a time, instructors didn't have black belt students very much. Like, some of them did, established ones did.
It is. It's definitely one of the things I've noticed. We're in this weird place where we're kind of 4.5, 5 years, so we don't have any black belts that have come through yet. So we have people helping us in our class that are blue belts. We have people that are coming through that grade, but like we feel that not having black belts thing. If ever anyone is sick, because we run to 2 classes parallel, we need both instructors there. So if one of us is sick, we're goosed straight away. And,
Right.
we need to call somebody and say, hey, I will pay you to come teach this class tonight. Can you come, please, or else I have to cancel? So this happens sometimes, not often, but sometimes. But we feel the pinch then when it comes time to go to tournament. It's like, we have one black belt and we have no umpires or no coaches, and we have 20 people, and okay, I go sit in the chair. So and it's a weird one. It's a strange one, because although I suppose it's changed a little bit with sort of 14 to 17 moving to Sunday. There's less kind of, we have a couple of seniors that are in the, seniors. They're not 18. They're so they can handle themselves. They don't necessarily need a coach, but it's that 14 to 17 group that are kind of in that sort of high greens, low blues, early reds. They're the kind of ones that you wouldn't mind standing there and going, okay, it'd be nice to sit on the chair for them, but you have to do your thing. I mean, there's no umpires, there's no tournaments, so. But it's one of those ones that I'd be happy when we have a few grown. It'd be nice.
Well, we had the other side of it during the year where we realized that, what, most people who've coached for the last couple of years, or we say the experience that our students would have had of coaches were 4th degree and higher. So
right.
The issue with that is we came to the conclusion before the start of this year, hey, our red belts, they do nothing. It's not like years ago where you would have had to do a lot more instructing. You'd have to be a lot more involved in the club before you went to black belt. And we decided that was a huge problem. We were fixing that. So now kind of getting them to where, like, okay, our red belts need to help. They need to assist. They need to come back and do things, and following through all the black belt grades. But it was just for a while there, we were kind of spoiled where, maybe you had to put up with a 3rd degree, but
shame.
But for the most part, like, it was myself and Jamie and Rachel and Ronnie, and it was just like, it's not needed. So it's just a change of environment, but each one has its strengths and weaknesses. So at least your blue belts and red belts might arrive to black belts much more confident in their knowledge of their basic technique, their terminology, the why and the wherefore, whereas a lot of ours they're still just really copying, and they're practicing, but they haven't had to figure out the background knowledge that actually.
Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's a cool problem. I suppose last question, if you have time.
Sure.
I'm curious. I mean, Taekwondo as a martial art is seen as a kind of traditional martial art, and we often get a lot of flack for, that sparring is just tippy-tappy nonsense. You don't really hit each other, and like I always say, there's no good way to get kicked in the face, regardless of what martial art you're doing. But I think I'm curious about how you think Taekwondo stays relevant in the modern game of martial arts, where we see so much around kind of MMA and other martial arts that are very much in vogue and very much. And I'm asking everyone this question because I want to get the sort of the general consensus, or what people think. How does Taekwondo as a traditional martial art sort of attract new people, especially new senior people? I mean, we're grand for attracting kids, I think, but harder to kind of get teenagers and adults involved, I think.
Yeah, I think, like, if you look at the image that's there, okay, why is Taekwondo attractive to kids? Well, because structure, discipline are things that appeal to parents. It's cleaner looking than, say, to some degree MMA, but not jiu-jitsu or, any of the traditional in a dobok, gi, whatever martial arts will tend to appeal more to parents of children than a cage. It's nature of it. But at the same time, that isn't true for the adults, or for, a lot of the other ones are looking at it and going, oh my God, do I have to stand in lines and wear the pajamas and, bow and all the rest of it? And it's like, well, yeah, you do. So I think the positioning of Taekwondo, like the areas that we've seen growth, the kids are definitely still a busy area, but I think we're going to have phenomenal competition across not just the martial arts, but the entire sports sector, because everybody is getting better at what they're offering for, and I mean that, like, in terms of the resources, in terms of the coaching, in terms of the, how competition is structured in terms of, like, we were once upon a time, 15 years ago, we were probably ahead of the curve. Now we're struggling to keep up as the big sports put big money behind it and on they go. Everyone's kind of more educated on how to better deal with kids now. So I think that's a hugely competitive area, and it'll be a little bit more difficult, except that as of yet, for certain learning difficulties and for people with different abilities, Taekwondo is one of a range of sports and activities that's been singled out as well. That would be useful and cheaper than physiotherapy. Go there. So there's an element of that, and I don't say that in any way facetiously. It's just that is a reality. We're seeing people referred to us by clinicians, and in a lot of ways that can be very good, but it puts on us the decision of, do we set up a separate class for particular areas of additional needs, or do we have a social model of integration and, include people where possible directly into our mainstream classes? And the answer is always, well, it depends. So it depends on, what we do. But if you're talking about, a commercial model, then it might be more beneficial to have, in some cases, a class that's a special needs class where you can more appropriately deal with people, but also facilitate putting on an extra class. I actually think, and I've been saying this for quite a while, a big area is, kind of almost skip past what triathlon and the gyms, etc., have done, and you go right past the 30 to 40 years group and you go to the 40 plus. And I think that's a different area for us entirely, where everything suddenly becomes relevant again, because I think Taekwondo suffers from all of the general skills that are learned as a child that are so useful and beneficial to children, all the general motor skills, the coordination, the learning skills that go with following a progressive syllabus, that go with learning a traditional martial art, that are so useful, the perseverance, the sticking with it, the attention to detail, the concentration and focus, the learning, making friends, losing friends, all those things that come with it. Brilliant. And that then kind of loses relevance somewhere between the teenage, not completely, but it becomes less important between the teenage years and early adulthood, where you've either got that or whatever, but then when you move past that into older adulthood, and 40, I hope, isn't older adulthood, but I'm kind of starting that as maybe the earliest possible age there, being 41 myself. But from there on, it's like, well, that's a time when it's tougher again to make new friends. That's a time when, a lot of social interactions and things are very set and very established, and maybe could do it shaking up a bit. It's where fitness is, you've stopped training in whatever was your main chosen sport for a particular period of time if you were doing that. Fitness training is now very isolated and solitary for a lot of people. It's why it became so popular. You're now doing it with a group. Triathlon is doing very well. Individual sports like walking, running, cycling, swimming, etc., do very, very well. And I think that's an area that Taekwondo could offer something different as well, where depending on the angle that you take in it, that kind of almost rediscovering physical literacy and joy of movement and, almost the gymnastic side of things as well could be good,
I think you're definitely onto something with that. I think I've seen older adults come back in and to physical activity and stick with it, and they go through to black belt, and it's madness. And I've seen, especially, I don't know if you get this at all in your club, but we get, parents watching their kids and they go, to hell with that, I'm having a go, and in they get, and then they're the ones that end up staying with you for however long, and they go on to.
It certainly has happened, and I definitely have still now. I can think of at least 3 parents off the top of top of my head that they're training away. Their kids are involved as well. The parents are training. I couldn't tell you which one will last longer, the parents or the kids, but in some cases it has been like that. But yeah, definitely. And one of the things that we would love to do with our club over time is expand to better cater to that again. But like we've had times when our adult classes were very, very busy, but it's moved and trends have changed, and people are, we find the same people who would have done that 10 years ago probably aren't going. They'll pick a different activity now. Trends, fashions, things move. So you have to reposition yourself, and you have to look for, right, who is this the best fit for, and also look at, well, do we change? And like that's a challenge for us, because it's not always easy to change Taekwondo to suit the audience, you know.
Yeah.
Change the filter on it, but not necessarily the core product.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is what it is, I suppose.
Yeah.
There's a few things like that. Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's a nice problem to have, I suppose. I'd rather not, than sort of be just sort of stuck doing the same thing. It's nice to say, well, we have to stay sharp and inventive, or else we become irrelevant, So, yeah, I mean, that's cool. It's really cool. Like, there's so much more I could chew your ear about. Especially, I never got a chance to chew your ear on the international coaching conference that you organised this year. It was a super event. I mean, do you plan to do another one?
Yes, currently we're working with the ITF Coaches Committee to establish a process whereby any country can apply to host one. So we're pretty much trying to standardize. Look, this is what the offering needs to be, and this is what the contract needs to be with the ITF. So we're working through that at the moment. We hopefully over the next few months we'll have that finalized with the ITF. But we would hope to host one in 2021. Now, obviously, this year is a bit of a write-off. We would have been hoping to do something before the end of this year, but I think not in Ireland, but worldwide. I think this year is going to be more or less a write-off for launching new big things.
Yeah.
But the pilot has been done. We've had that in Ireland. We'd hope to be able to run 2 to 3 worldwide every year.
Right, and we look forward to it. Definitely, that's for sure.
Good.
Okay. Fancy a few rapid-fire questions before we quit?
Sure. Come on.
Okay, cool. Come on. Favorite technique?
Jumping front kick.
Favorite pattern?
Moo.
Least favorite pattern?
Sejong.
Least favorite kicking technique?
Least favorite kicking technique? High twist and kick.
What would be your go-to hand technique?
It's gonna have to be the punch. Got to punch.
You have 3 boards to break. What technique do you pick?
Oh, that's nice. Everyone's going to say side kick of some description. If it's not going to be a side kick, it's going to be a jump back side kick.
Jump back. Okay, we can't kick it with the side kick. You may as well jump and spin.
Yeah.
Cool. What else can I ask you? No, I won't. I'll stay off that one. We'll just get in trouble. Anyway, look, Mr. Byrne, it's been a fantastic conversation. It's been really enlightening. I'm sure everyone listening will have got loads out of this. I've had great crack, and we really look forward to you getting back out in the mats as soon as possible when all of this blows over. And we will definitely look forward to bringing you up to Kerry to do a session with us at the future if you'd have us, or if you'd come up and you'd be so kind. We'd of course appreciate that. But yeah, look, please look after yourself and all family as well, and we look forward to continued successes in the future.
Mind yourselves, stay well.
Indeed, sir. Rock and roll. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
Bye bye.
Take care. Bye.